Yeah, let's make fun of you.
He just outed it.
I mean, come on. Hey, we don't start over. Hey, this is live. Come on.
Fine, it's live. Let's go. We're going.
I'm tired of
okay?
you. You do it to me all the time. You sit there and talk, and I go, when we going to start? Oh, we've been starting.
Oh, gosh, there he is. He's talking again. It's Wednesday. It's draft edition. My man, Paul Burmeister. Good to see you too, man. We're going to get into it today. You know, this is the Wednesday draft deep dive. Excited for that. We're going to talk to Kirk Ferentz.
Yes.
Iowa head coach.
Yep, University of Iowa. Yep. And the dean of college football coaches right now.
No doubt about it. Worked under Bill Belichick, so we'll get into some of that. That's going to be exciting. We will talk to my father at some point during this show, and we don't know where that'll go or how long he'll talk, but we'll try to manage that.
That wasn't live?
No, that was not live, but he can't wait to go. He's been texting me things he's got to get off his chest, so that's good. And then, of course, we're going to do a little bit of a deep dive in the edge guys in the draft. The defensive ends, outside linebackers, crash ends. I'm going to explain all of that, just some of the technical terms, who I like, where we rank them, and we'll talk a little ball that way. But always good to be here. And I think the first thing we got to do is, hey, please subscribe, okay? Go to youtube.com/NBC Sports. Get at me at CSimmsQB on Twitter, at me at Simms Unbuttoned on Instagram, and let's have some fun. Tell me if I'm an idiot. No, actually don't. But I want to have conversations with the people that are watching the show, listening to the show, and I like the dialogue. And we've gotten some feedback about some other positions and things like that, and I welcome that. I really do. Nobody's perfect in scouting, right, Paul? It's not a perfect thing.
No, it's not supposed to be.
No,
it's impossible.
If Bill Belichick can mess up draft picks, then damn, I can mess up some scouting as well. So I always put it that way.
And you mentioned the feedback. We're going to have feedback part of the show. You had the running back list at South 5 last week.
Right.
Some people have chimed in on what they think of that, and we'll include that as we talk about the running backs. And before we get into your top list of the best edge rushers.
Yeah, great. It's good, man. So where do you want to start this thing out?
Well, I understand you were on a plane late yesterday coming back from Phoenix.
Yes, I was.
Owners meetings?
I'm here, ready to go. Yep, but I land. Owners meetings, always great.
What'd you like best?
I always like just catching up with some friends, some coaches that, maybe I didn't get to see them at the combine or get to talk to them, have a few moments. That's the best part about the owners meetings. You're all stuck in the same hotel, basically.
Which can be good or bad.
It could be good or bad. I was in a
You're stuck in a different hotel
down the street, so we won't go there. But either way, yes, it is. That's my favorite part. Just catching up with people, talking some ball, talking about free agency, talking and having dialogue about the draft and players you like. That, to me, is what I get out of
or maybe talking about rule changes.
Exactly right. Well, we did a lot of that. That's all me and Florio talked about on
What do you think?
I like it. I do.
Well, let's quickly explain pass interference, offense, defense, now reviewable.
Yes, right.
You like it?
I do like it. I don't know if we're not opening up a can of worms, okay? That's the first thing I'll say. And to this, listen, I understand we got to do this. We're trying to get it right. And when they first talked about reviewing plays that, a flag was thrown or not thrown, there was a little more conversation that it might go beyond pass interference. It might go through, unnecessary roughness, hitting a defenseless receiver. It might have been on roughing the passer.
We avoided that.
Right, which I thought was, that's a very broad subject when you talk about it. So we did avoid that. At least we're keeping it to pass interference. But pass interference, again, this is what I'm just going to warn everybody. It's still a judgment call. Mm-hmm. There is times where there's been pass interference called in an NFL football game, and they show it in slow motion, and I see the replay 3 times and go, that's not pass interference. I don't, that's just because the guy's hand was here or whatever it may be. So at the end of the day, they can go review it. I still think it's going to be a judgment call in slow motion replay to where you're going to go, was that really pass interference? But I get it.
And that's my concern. And tell me if I'm looking at this the wrong way. And we were working hockey last night. I'm really just thinking about this for the first time. My immediate reaction is, okay, good news, applause. We're going to avoid a situation like the playoff game last year in New Orleans. That was a disaster. That doesn't need to happen again.
Yes.
But there will be dozens, maybe hundreds of times in between that where the game gets stopped. They take a look 15 different ways for a couple different minutes, and they come back and say, at the end, it was just a judgment call. Okay, his hand was on him there. It wasn't on him there. Let's look at it for another 45 seconds.
Exactly
so
right.
It avoids the major problem. That's good. But there's going to be a lot of stoppage in play and a lot of maybe annoying part of games.
I think it's already a little annoying.
In week 7, on 2nd down and 9, do we need to spend a couple minutes looking if the corner touched the tight end or not?
Exactly right. I'm with you there, man. And you know, again, it's good. I understand why we're doing it. We're trying to make the game better. Okay, all those things are positive. But, you know, let me just throw out like food for thought. And this is what I've argued about with this play all along, because, you know, it's not about that one play why the Saints lost that football game. There's other plays and other things. It's a long game. There was other missed calls throughout the game that affected the Rams. What if it was vice versa, okay, with this scenario? The drive before, Jared Goff got face mask scrambling down the left sideline. They didn't call it. It would have been 1st and goal at the 1. And I'm pretty sure with Todd Gurley or C.J. Anderson, they would have scored a touchdown.
Right.
Okay, I know we don't know that, okay, but either way, I think it's pretty safe to say Todd Gurley's pretty special and C.J. Anderson are pretty special. They could have punched that in. So what if it happened the other way around? And they didn't score a touchdown on that drive, just to remind everybody. They ended up kicking a field goal, which only put them up by 3 at the time.
Right.
So my big thing is, what if the pass interference happened on that drive, and then the last drive of the game was the Rams having the ball, and, okay, the face mask happened and it doesn't get called? Are we sitting here going, oh, now we got to review that? That's why I just think we might be opening up a can of worms and going down a tunnel. Where does it stop?
Where does it end?
Right. You know,
to what end? Yeah.
Soccer in Europe, there's no replay. That soccer seems to be doing pretty good in worldwide. I don't know how those people live without replay, and we got to get everything correct.
Well, for right now, it's only offensive and defensive pass interference.
That's good, and I'm glad they limited to that, and it's a 1-year trial period, which is good too, so we'll see where it goes.
Other big news this week, tight end position, Rob Gronkowski hanging it up. And I just learned that when you were with the Patriots, you spent a lot of time inside the Patriots tight end room.
I did.
So what do you know about Gronk that we don't know just from watching him on TV because you were in the meeting room with him Monday through Saturday?
Sure. I mean, first off is he's a great, lovable guy. All the things you've always heard about Gronk. I mean, it's smile. It's love to be around football all the time. He is the same guy every day. I mean, a big, goofy animal, for lack of a better phrase. And I mean that in the most respectful way. I really do. But George Gotsey was kind of my boss when I was with the New England Patriots. And he was the tight ends coach. So I would sit in tight ends meetings with him at the time. And this is the one thing that always jumped out to me about Rob Gronkowski. Forget how damn big he is and how talented he is and the run blocker he is. He is a football savant. I'm telling you. I mean, it is, we would be in meeting rooms, and if you threw out a question, if George Gotsey threw out a question to Rob Gronkowski, hey, what's the call we're going to make with the tackle here with this specific defensive alignment? He would be all over it. Oh, we're going to switch block that. I mean, he would be all over every little detail like that. So, hey, he might not have known the square root of 64, okay? But damn it.
Might have.
He might have. You're right. But either way, when it came to football, man, he had a lot of just natural football IQ and a feel for the game that was what also made him special. And that offense is tough, Paul. It's a tough offense to learn. They do a lot. So you've got to be pretty smart.
So even as a veteran, was he one of the guys in there on a Thursday taking notes?
Yes, he would. He wasn't a big note taker, but he sat right in the front of the tight end room, and he was right there and just, you know, he could just fire away right away. You know, I don't know how much, have you ever seen Gronk in person?
Well, yes, I have.
Right.
And like it's very cool that you have experience with him in the meeting room because, I mean, 99.9% of the people that know who he is don't have that. On the role that I played on our Football Night in America show on Sundays, I would go down to the field, whatever game I was at, in the last 6 minutes of the game. We were in the press box before that, but I'd go down to the field, and it was in Pittsburgh a year and a half ago.
Sure.
The big fumble
Jesse
game that
James,
wasn't fumble. Yes, exactly.
Catch, no catch, right.
On the Patriots' decisive drive there, Gronk was the guy.
Yeah.
And I was on the sideline 10, 15 yards away from him. And to see that in person, it's kind of like when you go to a baseball game and you're used to seeing on TV how fast the ball is coming in. Then you're actually there.
And you're like, how do they ever hit the ball? Right.
And I stand there and look at Gronk, and this is a game, as you know better than I do, of massive fast people, and he stood out.
He stood out.
There were a couple plays where it was cover two safeties, and Tom Brady got the ball, and he let it go, and you can picture it. There's that moment where the ball's in the air, it's going to go 25 yards downfield. You know that the tight end's going to have a shot at it. You know those two safeties are going to destroy the tight end. And I remember just watching and looking at Gronk, and the courage and the hands.
Right.
2 different times to bring it in and have the guys literally bounce off him.
Yes.
You don't get that many wow plays when you're around it a lot.
Yeah.
That was a wow series of plays. I walked away from that game going, if there's a better football player in the NFL than Rob Gronkowski, I'd like to see him.
It's pretty special. And we're gonna get into that a little bit with my dad, too, because, my dad, with his years announcing games for CBS and all of that, gosh, I don't think there was a team he covered more than the New England Patriots. And, of course, he has history with Bill Belichick. So that could be a cool conversation. But I'm with you there because Gronkowski is one of those things. And I've had a lot of even coach friends. I said this to Mike Florio on the show this week where, they think they prepare for Gronk. We thought we had a good game plan. But, man, we didn't realize how big he was.
Right.
We didn't realize the size and the athleticism and the combination because it can look clunky on film or on TV. And you go, is he really moving that well? But once you see it in person, to your point, you go, holy crap, not only is he one of the biggest guys in the field, he's sneaky fast, he's sneaky quick, and he's extremely powerful. And, hey, for my money, I know I haven't seen every tight end in the history of football, but in my lifetime, he is the best tight end for sure that I've ever seen. He's the greatest of all time at that position.
And about 2 plays later, at the end of that drive, I was talking about at Pittsburgh, where he made those incredible catches down the middle of the field that showed a lot of courage and incredible hands.
Right.
I forget if it was the 2-point play or if they just had 1st and goal from about the 2-yard line. They split him out wide, and they sent a corner out there on him.
Oh, I know.
Okay, this guy who just went from the most courageous catch I've seen this season is going to get a fade thrown to him against a 5'10" corner. It's not even fair.
Yes.
So the number of ways they exploited his talents just in a matter of moments.
Right.
What might have been their biggest regular season game that season.
I hear
it was incredible.
It's incredible. Because what do? I would argue he's one of the greatest mismatches in the history of football because teams had to do just exactly what you're saying. You go, damn, what do we want to do? Do we want to put a linebacker on him? Damn, he's a little too athletic for a linebacker. And then you go, okay, now, do we want to put our best cover guy on him? Man, our best corner is, God, he's going to be overpowered by him. So I worry about that aspect. And, hey, there's games where, I think about the AFC Championship game 2 years ago. The Jacksonville Jaguars had to put Jalen Ramsey on Rob Gronkowski. Right. And that was, hey, great. He had a good day, Jalen, guarding him. But the point is that the Jacksonville Jaguars had to use their best defensive player on a tight end. Right. And then we saw Amendola and all these other guys at the end of the game start to show up. And because Jalen Ramsey's more worried about covering a Gronk or whatever it may be. But that's what kind of special player he is.
Okay, so when it comes to tight ends in this year's class, this isn't just because I went to the University of Iowa.
Yeah.
The Hawkeyes are a special group this year. They're going to have a couple of tight ends likely in the first round. We've never seen a draft with 2 tight ends going in the first round.
No.
They had their pro day on Monday. We're talking about T.J. Hockenson and Noah Fant.
Yeah.
Head coach of the Iowa Hawkeyes, as promised, Kirk Ferentz joins us now. Kirk, thank you very much for your time, and let's get right to it with these 2 guys. People love them. People describe them as first-round tight ends, but then they automatically get to this next point. They're so different. They're very different tight ends. You know them very well. How are TJ and Noah most different?
Well, first of all, they're both outstanding players, and they're tremendous young people, so that is a commonality. And, whoever drafts both of them, I think, they're going to be really happy. But, Noah's got a very unique skill set. And, you have to be a detective to figure that out. I mean, he showed up. He just he can run very extremely well. I don't know that we've ever had a tight end that can run like him. Not many people have. He just has a real natural gait, really smooth and quick. And, he's a tremendous guy. He's kind of a linear build type guy.
Right.
But, I think there's probably a lot of good receiving tight ends out there, but he's not adverse to blocking either, and that's sometimes a difference maker. So I think he's shown a real willingness to be a blocker as well as a pass receiver. He's a guy that can play in line and also play out wide and, split them out in the slot, those types of things. So I think he's got, just a lot going for him there. And he played as a true freshman, not a lot, but he played. We really felt like he'd have a chance to have a real prominent role and wanted to get him started right away. And then I'll flip it over to TJ. TJ was a little bit more of a developmental guy, really good high school basketball player. Played more as a wide receiver in high school and caught a million balls, but, you never really saw him block. And so he did take a year of redshirting and played extremely well 2 years ago. And then this is his 3rd year on campus as sophomore eligibility-wise. And things really came together. He had a good year a year ago, but this year things really just came together for him. And, he's got an ability to, make the kind of plays I think that really make an impact in a game. And I would cite our bowl game. We were having a hard time. We couldn't run the ball against Mississippi State. I wasn't going to say we're having a hard time. We couldn't run the ball against them. And
well, that's understandable, Coach. They kind of had a good defensive line.
Man, oh man, they were good. And the TJ made 2 plays in the fourth quarter. One in particular where he caught a 2-yard pass and broke about 5 tackles to pick up 15, 20 yards. And it was one of those times in the game where we needed to move the ball and burn some clock. And they just came up with a big play at a big moment for us, and that's kind of representative of him. He has that ability. He's just a tremendous young man, also. So they're both just high caliber guys.
Coach, Chris Simms, first off, and thanks for coming on the show. We appreciate that.
My pleasure.
I'm interested in I want to ask just a few questions about both guys. But Noah Fant, I mean, you talked about it. He pops off the screen. Both guys do. I mean, I want to be respectful of both.
Yep.
But Noah Fant, like you said, has almost a wide receiver type ability. I mean, I'm just amazed by the explosiveness, the acceleration, the twitchiness of the football player. I mean, would you rate it up there with some of the better receivers you've seen, let alone just tight ends that you've been around in your career?
Yeah, I mean, he might be our fastest guy last year. He might be. I don't know that he is. We don't run guys in the 40 once they get done, or once they start playing. But he has that ability. In fact, I got in a little trouble with our local media. I got referred to him. Used the term specialist, and I didn't mean that in a derogatory sense at all. But he does have specialist speed, which is, it's really unusual for a tight end. But the rest of the story is, as I mentioned earlier, he's willing to block also, and that it's funny. I was talking to a couple guys at the timing pro day Monday, and we have a certain standard of blocking here, and we expect that out of all of our guys playing at that position. And as coaches, you're always thinking about what guys can do better. And I think if I was going to say one thing about Noah, that's still an area I think he can continue to grow on. And anyway, one of the scouts said to me, he said, hey, you're just thinking locally here. I said, I'm seeing everything globally. Those guys watch tape from everybody in the country, and by their standards, Noah's really blocked extremely well. So
right,
he's just I think he's got a real rare ability, and the one thing you can't teach is that speed, and he certainly has that.
Yeah, I think what the scouts and the NFL people are talking to you, and at least that jumped out to me. Yeah, the run blocking is not perfect, but there's the will and the want to there, and I think that's what at least I like. Right. All right. So I appreciate you bringing up a little bit of the negative or things that they need to work on. I mean, both of these guys are super freaky, but how about Hockenson? What is the one thing you look at his game and go? I mean, we know these both are going first round, and we're not trying to demean them in any way, but what's the one area you go? I think he could probably improve a little bit in this area, or has growth?
Yeah, I think I'd compare him in that regard to James Daniels from a year ago. And I told a couple of people last year at this time that, when you're drafting James, you're drafting a really good player, but really you're drafting a guy who's going to be a much better player 2 years from now.
Right.
And I would say it about all players. I just, I guess, I don't know if you want to use the term old school, but I think most NFL people would agree. Most players, maybe not all, maybe running backs are an exception or here and there, but maybe the quarterback from Clemson. But overall, most guys would be better off playing 4 years of college football or just being in college for 4 years. I think it just makes you a little bit more NFL ready, and from a maturity standpoint, and just the physical maturity too. And
that's right.
I spent a couple years in the league. I still think it's a great. People underestimate how much guys change, and I always believed, and I coached the offensive line, but thought guys really changed or had an opportunity to change physically in the first 3 years of their NFL careers too, if they were working at it and doing the right things. So, I feel like both TJ and Noah, their best football is still way out in front of them because they're both third-year guys out of high school, and they played really well for us. The notoriety and attention they've garnered so far, I think, is deserved. But I think, you're going to see a better football player in both cases, a year or 2 years from now. And that to me would be exciting if you're drafting one of those guys.
Yeah.
I think one of the popular narratives out there right now, Kirk, when it comes to to TJ especially and the NFL because of your connection with Bill Belichick. You mentioned you coached offensive line for him in Cleveland in the early 90s because Gronk is just retired, and because he's the #1 tight end in this class to most, they want to connect the dots to New England, that he's the best guy out there to replace Gronk. Now, we're not going to predict what happens draft day, but can you see a connection there with what you know about Bill, what you know about TJ, that he would be a nice fit in that building?
Well, yeah, first of all, we were really lucky. We played Arizona in 2009, and Gronk did not play against us. He was out here in Kinnick, and he had a back issue, so he was not playing. So, fortunately, I never got to see him live in college, but we had seen him on film, and we're glad we knew enough that we were glad he didn't play that day. But what a career he's had. I guess he's 265, 270. I think TJ has the potential. I think in 3 years from now,
yes,
very easily be weighing 260. I don't know about 270, but he plays with an energy that you see on TV when you see Gronk. Where we had Dallas Clark had that rare energy that just everything about football. He loves it, and I think it's funny in some ways. If you look at Noah, it's probably not fair to compare some things that TJ does to the way Noah does them. And then conversely, I think it's the same. If you compare TJ's speed to Noah's, well, yeah, it's not as good. Well, nobody's is. So,
right.
You have to look at them separately. But, yeah, I think TJ's just a really versatile all-around tight end that's, really doesn't have any flaws in his game. And other than he's only played 2 years of college football, really, and to me, that's a positive almost in that, he's going to keep getting better.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, it's going to be about what the team need is, what you're looking for at the tight end position according to how your offense plays. I get that.
Yeah. I'm not suggesting he won't play good next year, but he'll play better 2 years from now.
Hey, we know. I hear you. They're both amazing. So I'm with you, and they both look like they can grow and get bigger and stronger and improve on all the things you said. Who the hell is recruiting tight ends for you? Okay, that's what I want to know. Who's got the damn eye for talent? We got George Kittle. You talked about Dallas Clark. These two freaks of nature we got. Is it you? Is it your son? Who's got the eye here?
Well, there's really good stories pretty much for all these guys. But Noah is we were lucky to get him. He's from Omaha, and our message really resonated with him. And he was considering Nebraska for obvious reasons. He was considering UCLA, and I think proximity to home. Maybe we were a compromise candidate, but proximity to home. We're less than 4 hours from his house, and I just think our message really resonated with Noah and his family, and it all panned out. He had a great career here. And then TJ's a little different story. He's more of a small town Iowa kid that really was not recruited outside of our state, and but we have done, I think, a pretty good job. And Reese Morgan was the point person for us as a recruiter, and who coincidentally Paul Burmeister knows very well.
Yes.
And Reese just has an eye for seeing guys that have great growth potential. And
right.
You could argue TJ was probably a better high school basketball player than football player, and I could say the same thing about Brandon Myers, who played in a small town in Iowa.
Yeah.
Had a nice career in the NFL. So
I was going to ask you, do you go to basketball games, Coach? Like to watch them in high school?
Yeah,
to watch?
absolutely.
You did?
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah, well, I mean, just that's part of the recruiting process for us, and getting kids to camp, and maybe ask them to do some things they weren't doing. We asked TJ to block. He didn't block very well in our camp, but he tried.
Right.
So we knew we could coach him.
Yeah.
And you mentioned George Kittle. I'm old enough. I coached George's dad here in 1981.
Yes.
And
offensive lineman.
He's a good story. He was going to Weber State, so we took a shot at him right at the end of recruiting, and didn't know if he'd be an outside linebacker or a tight end, but we thought he was something. And he's another good illustration. He's clearly playing his best football of his life the last 2 years, and he played well for us, but he just, he's really grown into an outstanding NFL player.
And there's a lot of development that goes on in Iowa City with these tight ends. Kirk, I remember talking to Brett Bielema 20 years ago about Dallas Clark when he was a walk-on linebacker. He's like, I don't know what we're going to do with this kid. We got to find a home. And a couple of years later, he wins the John Mackey Award as the best tight end. So, Coach, I know spring football has started there. You're probably busy.
I got to ask him one thing. Yeah, I mean, come on. It's Paul Burmeister. You went to. When are we opening up Burmeister Hall or the Burmeister Trophy in Iowa? When's that happening,
Checkbook's
Coach?
not that big.
That's a really fair question, so that's a really great question. And not only an Iowa grad, but he's an Iowa City native, and I'll tell you, we're just so proud and thrilled that he is a former player here, because he's done such a great job professionally. Love hearing you on the air, Paul. And just got done visiting with Packy Webb and his family. Brad Webb was a captain here in 1981, a walk-on who ended up being a 3-year starter captain. And he and Andre Tippett were our 2 outside linebackers in 1981 on that first Rose Bowl team. So that's the neat thing about this program is just the connections are so deep and so over 4+ generations now, or 4+ decades, I should say, not generations. And that's I think one of the neat things about this program and this state in general. And we're so proud that Paul's part of the family.
Awesome, Coach. Thanks for coming on. We really appreciate it. We know you got better things to do than talk to us 2 dummies here, but keep kicking butt.
It's my pleasure.
All right, Coach.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Guys.
Be good.
Thank you.
All right, see you back in Iowa City. Bye-bye. All right, Kirk Ferentz, it's great.
Real football coach right there.
Exactly.
I have legitimate respect for him.
And the super cool thing about Kirk is, so he was the offensive line coach my true freshman year in 1989. And then he left to go coach with Bill Belichick.
Right.
And moved around and came back. But he hasn't changed one bit. He's a guy, dean of all the college football coaches, could have had many NFL jobs, I believe. He's still just an offensive line coach who wants to get in early, draw up plays on the board, and go out and teach it on the afternoon. That's it. He hasn't changed a single bit.
And that's the style of ball they play. I respect it. They're not always going to get the sexiest athletes on the edge, running backs, receivers. Right. They do it with guys like he talked about, James Daniels, who was a second-round guard center pick for the Chicago Bears last year, just for the people who were wondering who that was. But yeah, they're kind of old school. It's a true, almost NFL approach, which is how they play. And he's one of the better coaches in college football. And probably, like you said, one of the coaches that if he wanted to throw his name into the NFL fold, the NFL, I think, would certainly welcome into it because he does. He has his NFL pedigree in the way he coaches, and, of course, he's got history there, too.
He was so nice to me when I was first in local TV. I wasn't that far removed from playing at Iowa.
Right.
And I had to play this role of asking the tough questions and hanging around when a player was going to transfer and they couldn't talk about it. And he, in a very professional way, was very kind to me when I know it was a little bit awkward for both of us, something I always think of with him. So
I'm excited to see where those tight ends end up.
Right?
Because going into the process, I think everybody, and I don't mean everybody in the NFL, but it certainly seemed like the media was like, oh, it's going to be Hockenson in the top 15 and, Fant somewhere later in the first round. And, from what I've seen, and I haven't done the deep dive yet, but I think it could be the other way around.
Really?
I do. I mean, they're both awesome, so I'm not trying to. But Fant, as Coach said, has a very special skill set. Right. It's really rare to be, and
I'm sure he's excelling at this time of year as well. It doesn't mean he's not a great football player.
No, I get you. But the workouts are up his alley.
Terrific.
He's freaky as far as just of his speed. He really reminds me of what do you want to say? Jordan Reed, Evan Ingram. I'll tell you, hey, this name might not be the most popular name we've ever heard, and I know there's some issues there. One of the freakiest tight ends I've seen along those lines, Aaron Hernandez, He was one of those guys, I think a lot like Noah Fant, where first time I saw him, I was like, whoa. This is he's got Julian Edelman quickness, but he's 245 pounds, and he can run and catch and block and do it all. And I think Fant is, that kind of special guy. Both are going to be special, really, but I'll be interested to see if he maybe jumps Hockenson when all said and done.
Right. Yeah. Keep an eye out for that one. And
you got a feel for that? What do you think's going to happen? Want to put a wager on it? Are you going to go Hockenson, or you think you'll go Fant first?
I will still say Hockenson, but I'll be on board with Fant saying he goes in the top 20.
Yeah, I think so.
Both those guys will be going to the top 20. Most importantly, I think you're ready for It's Great to Be a Hawkeye t-shirt. I'm going to get that on order.
I could do that.
Right?
I can do black and yellow. It looks good on me. I'm good with that.
Black with the yellow writing?
Yeah, I like that better. That's exactly right. I don't want yellow with the black. I'm too I'm yellow and white as it is. That won't look good. I'll wear it on the show. I will. Just because he came on. Not for you, but because for Coach.
Exactly. As long as we get that clear. Okay, from Kirk Ferentz, let's go to running backs. Top 5 you listed last week. We're just going to review before we get into some of the feedback, some of the people that are excited about your feelings on them. So from 5 to 1, Quandre Ollison, Miles Sanders, Darrell Henderson, Raquel Armstead, and at the top, Josh Jacobs from Alabama. So people don't want to compliment you on that list. They want to say why.
Yes.
Why isn't my guy on there? And
of course.
The top question has to do with former Iowa State Cyclone.
Sure.
David Montgomery,
right.
This is just an example of one of the many tweets we've gotten about it. Brady would like to know, I really think David Montgomery should be in the top 5. Why isn't he?
Yeah, he's a good football player. So, again, this is not always easy ranking these guys all the way. But let me just tell you what I'm about with the running back position. First of all, what was there to be had? Okay, everybody can run through a big hole, but is the guy maximizing what's there in the hole? Okay, so, he ran for a 20-yard gain, and it looks good on the stat sheet and all that. But, I could show you other running backs who had holes like David Montgomery and go, they didn't get 20, they got 70 and went to the house. They made the guy miss and got the extra 20 yards after that to make it a 40-yard run. So I think the big thing with Montgomery, okay, he's got special contact balance. He's got very good quickness for a guy that's his size. But at the end of the day, I think the thing that bothered me the most, and I wrote this in my notes, of course, is lack of acceleration and overall explosiveness is what bothers me more than anything. I think that's what. He did not take advantage of all the yards that were there at times. And I wrote, he might make 2 people miss in space, but his speed at 4.63, which he plays to a 4.6 something on film too. I always write down what he plays like before I actually look up exactly what he ran. And I wrote down he plays like 4.65, and then I go look at him and I go, well, he ran 4.63.
Right.
So he might make 2 people miss, but the first guy he made miss is going to come back and catch him as he's doing it. So that bothers me. And
Josh Jacobs is a 4.6 guy, and you have him at 1 though.
I know, but Josh Jacobs, the film doesn't also say that. So that's when I have a thing there, right? So this to me was the film looked like it was 4.6, and then the time was 4.6. Josh Jacobs, I looked at it and said, damn, it looks like it's 4.4 flat. And I know he ran 4.6, but damn, on the football field, there's just too many times where he's outrunning special athletes in the SEC or on Clemson or whatever it may be, where I go, okay, hey, maybe the 40's not his thing, but when he has the ball in his hands, it's special. So that's really, I think, what I worry about it. And also, with the running back position, the body concerns me a little too. I'm into the body and the way it looks. I don't know.
He's not big enough?
It's not about the size, but the quality of the body. For lack of a better phrase, not quite solid, a little mushy. And I know he's not mushy, but mushy for running back standards, okay? Running back in the NFL, when you look at the top, you've seen them, they got to be pretty rocked up. And that always worries me because to me that looks like maybe he's doing a little bit of natural ability, okay? And when that natural ability starts to fall off, and you're not a weight room guy and getting rocked up, can you fall fast?
You say mushy upper or lower body?
A little bit of both. A little bit of both. I didn't love the way he looked in spandex at the combine and all those things, and I'm not judging everything off of that. I'm just saying, hey, the body was not my favorite. But I think if you went through the NFL, and we talked about Saquon Barkley, Greek god. Ezekiel Elliott, Greek god. I mean, you can go down the line and go.
These are big, thick guys when you stand next to him, Le'Veon Bell.
Exactly right.
TV doesn't always show it.
Exactly right. They're different. So those are just the things that worried me. Still a good football player. I wouldn't want him to be my number 1 running back. I think that's what I would say. I think he's a great number 2, a complement to a guy that might have a little more speed and explosiveness. Now it's Tariq Cohen, and now we'll bring in Jordan Howard off of that. That's maybe how I view him.
Looking at your list, number 5, as we saw out of Pittsburgh, Quadri Olison. How close is he to catching him? Any chance that he could show up at 5 instead of him?
I don't think so. No, I don't look at it that way. No, Olison maybe could have even been number 4 that way, but no, I have Montgomery probably a little farther down the list of
is
guys
he in your top
10? Yes, definitely in my top 10, certainly. And hey, if I'm wrong about this, you guys please remind me next year and go, hey, look, you dumbass, you're wrong. He's kicking ass, and I'll be the first to admit it. But
happens to everybody.
The film, Iowa State, they are pretty well coached in the run game. They have run the ball a little more advanced than maybe the rest of college football, which is pretty much inside and outside zone. They, like Iowa, have a little bit more of a pro-style running game. And I did not think he always took advantage of what was there to be had.
All right. Should we move on from running backs?
Yeah, cool.
To the group du jour today. This is the number 1 group in this entire draft. I keep reading this and hearing it. The edge rushers, the outside linebackers, the defensive ends. Before we dive into a number of guys here, we're going to go 1 through 7 or 7 through 1.
Right.
Considering that this is the best group in this entire draft, and I think that once you get past quarterback, this is the highest rate of boom or bust of any position in the draft.
No question.
When you go into rating the top 5, the top 7 outside rushers, how much different is it than just saying like rating the middle linebackers? Yeah,
no, it is different because some of it is projection a little bit, and that's why you do, like you said, you're right on. It is a it's, we're going to take a chance with Deion Jordan out of Oregon, right?
Third overall.
My gosh, it was a bust. But, I understand what you see and why they take the chance. They got this incredible length. He's an incredible athlete. And, man, we might be able to make him into something special. I watched Daniel Hunter come out of Minnesota and went, out of LSU, who got drafted by Minnesota. And I just went, when I evaluated it, I was like, this is Deion Jordan. I'm scared. I don't trust it. I don't know. It's just not a physical enough a style of play. There's too many large gaps in the game where I go, he's not involved. He doesn't do anything. But then you get in the NFL and you get around to, and the Vikings probably saw, wow, he's got great get off and he's got great length. Once again, we think we can coach him into his specific role, teach him how to use his hands, teach him other few passing, pass rush moves that he didn't have at college, and we can grow him into something. And damn, they did, because there he was last year with 14.5 sacks, and they gave him a lot of damn money. So I was wrong about that, right? So that's why it is hard about this. It's a projection sometimes, and sometimes, as you know, in college, colleges just run their defenses. The NFL is a little different. They're not going to always – they know what – Mike Zimmer knows what Daniel Hunter's strengths are. He's not going to ask him to do unrealistic things. He wants him get out wide, pin your ear back, rush the passer. Okay, that's all we want you to do. Where in college, every now and then they go, we want you to slant inside and shoot between the guard and center gap. And I want to go, it's, Daniel Hunter's not going to win that matchup. Right. That's not for him. And those are the things you have to take into account as you watch and evaluate defensive linemen. And we're going to get into the edge guys. And there's different versions of edge guys.
A lot of different versions.
Exactly right. And we'll break it down. To me, what we're going to talk about today in edge guys is 3 different areas, right? There's the outside linebacker, stand-up type guy, right?
Who has to do both rush and drop.
And drop back into coverage, right? Like Von Miller does a little bit of that for the Denver Broncos, certainly. Then there's the rush ends, just pure pass rushers. We want you on the weak side.
4-3 defensive end.
Exactly, 4-3 defense end. We want you on the weak side, away from the tight end, so the edge is shorter, and you can just use your speed and absolute athleticism to come around and get the edge, like a Daniel Hunter. That's what he is. And then you have what NFL people will call a crash end. Crash end might be a little bit more power-based, right? A guy that, we feel comfortable about you being in between the tight end and the tackle on the strong side, because you can handle the run game, but you also have great ability to rush the passer, but we're also taking into account your ability to get in the scrum and ruin run plays or win with your physicality, not just always your pure athletic ability.
Okay. Yeah. I've always kind of heard it broken down as 2 different types, but it's nice to throw in that crash end as the third type.
And you can get into like another D end, which would be a 3-4 D end, which is a totally different thing.
It's kind of like the outside linebacker skill set that you talked about first.
Right. Well, a D end, a 3-4 D end is like Richard Seymour. That's a different animal altogether.
Now you're talking about defensive linemen.
We're really talking about defensive tackles almost, that in a 3-4 scheme become a defensive end because they're giant men who could just stand up an offensive tackle and 2-gap. And that's a totally different skill set than the guys we're talking about today.
And the guys we're going to be talking about the most, 1 through 7. Let's begin at 7. This is the point of the podcast where Chris gets very serious. He's got his notebook out. He writes in cursive and tiny little writing.
Yes, I do.
So good luck. Number 7, who you got?
Yeah, Clelin Ferrell from Clemson. And I know a lot of people got him, up there as far as, I see him in mock drafts, first round.
I see him in the top 15.
He's top, right. And
why do you like him less than most?
Well, I think the big thing is I don't think he's a really gifted athlete, okay? I think that's the first thing. I don't see really natural bend coming off the edge. And for people who want to know what I'm talking about, bend, okay? I think he's a little stiff this way. And when I'm talking about bend, and you know this too because we talked about it a little bit, but, bend is like the ability to come around the edge and get like this, okay? That's life in the NFL. Von Miller, Khalil Mack, I'm like this, and I got a 330-pound guy on my shoulder, and I can still just keep running and turn the corner.
It's almost like they get so low that the offensive tackle who's 6'6" can't even get the hands.
He can't even push him all the way down. He's like, damn, I want to push him in the ground, but this guy's legs and ass are so strong, he just kind of powers through it.
And he doesn't have that.
He does not have that. There's a lack of pass rush, a lack of fluid athleticism. He's a good football player, don't get me wrong. But even with some of his sacks, I didn't look at it and go, wow, that was awesome. The tackle slipped, or the tackle overplayed and played a really horrible technique, or he got matched up on a tight end. So I take into account not just production, but how did you get the production?
Right.
I'm not going to go, oh, unblocked and he got a sack. Woo, is he amazing? Gosh, look at this guy. When no one blocks him, he can get sacks. And I'm not saying that was the case, but the quality of the sack and what you're doing along that is what I look at. And if you want to know my pro player comparison, I wrote Mario Addison, okay, who's a good football player for the Carolina Panthers.
Say who?
Yeah, I know. Number 97 for the Carolina Panthers. I believe last year he probably had around 8, 9 sacks. Really good football player. They've paid him money. He's been playing. He's had a good career. So it's not like I'm trying to downplay this guy. But I just don't see the pure, natural, raw, physical ability that I see with some of the other guys. Let alone, I also take into account, defenses or offenses that played against Clemson this year, they weren't going, we got to stop this guy. There was like a whole plethora of people on Clemson. So that also adds to favorable matchups with Dexter Lawrence, Christian Wilkins on the end. I'm blanking on the other defense end, who's a professional defense end for Clemson, number 7. I mean, so I try to take all of that into account.
And pronunciation is interesting with him. Cleveland Farrell, most people say.
Thank you. Help me.
I called the Cotton Bowl, though, and the Tiger SID came in and said it's Furl.
Right.
I said everybody in the world is saying Farrell. He goes, it's Cleveland Furl.
Cleveland Furl. Okay, I got you. But good first step, got quickness. He was a tougher eval. This is a good group of guys. And just so we know, we're going through 7 guys because, I evaluated probably 14 to 15 of these guys. I think these 7 guys are slam dunk going to be in the top 50 picks of the draft, okay? So that's why I kind of cut it off at 7.
So Furl, second-round pick.
That's the way I look at him. Yes, certainly.
All right, we're going a little smaller school now at number 6.
Yeah, Jalen Ferguson, okay? This is a guy that's, I think, had a few little off-the-field issues. He wasn't invited to the combine.
Wow.
Okay, but the first thing I'll say is...
How major are these issues?
I don't know how major they are. And that's the hardest thing about our job, is because about this job, is because I don't always get to meet these guys or know what the research background check, checks out of. But all I know is when I turn on the damn film, and I'm only here to evaluate what goes on the field, okay?
Yeah.
So when I turn on the film, first of all, he is really easy to find because he is a big okay? I mean, he's a stand-up, almost plays an outside linebacker at times, but also puts his hand in the dirt and comes off the edge. He would be more along the crash end type. It's a power-based game, okay? But at 6'5", 271 pounds, man, I just was impressed with the overall power that he had in his game. He's a completely raw guy. He has no pass rush moves. He has no idea how to use his hands. And I look at that as a positive because that means there is room to grow. If there was one question I had about him, the motor can fall off at a time. Like the guy we just talked about, Farrell, his motor was off the charts, and that's a positive, certainly. This guy, because he's so big, he maybe would die out. You gotta kind of judge that through workouts when you look at him and all those things.
Is there any instance on film where he's going against an NFL tackle?
Yes, that would definitely. So I know this is Louisiana Tech, and trust me, I'm not sitting there going, oh, well, let me see how he did against Southwest, Northwest Alabama school. I understand that those are first games I turned on were LSU and Mississippi State. And he belongs. And, man, did he give the right tackle for LSU all he could handle. His power is real. But, yes, I was very intrigued by the athlete, the specimen, and his room to grow from here on out. I think there's a lot there to it. I compared him a lot to Frank Clark. Coming out of Michigan a few years ago, who just got franchise tag. Franchise tag. Yeah, I think he's a good football player. I don't know how the background will check out.
All right, back to a Power 5 conference school at number 5.
Yep, at number 5. Hold on, I got to look at my damn list here. I'm blanking out for a second.
Tallahassee.
Oh, sorry, Brian Burns.
I can say the name if you want me to.
It's all right either way.
Give me a signal.
I choked under the pressure, but Brian Burns was one of the more pleasant surprises that I saw. Now, I watched him a little bit when Florida State played Notre Dame this year, right? Yeah. Certainly. He is a long, gifted athlete.
Looks the part, which I know is important too.
Looks the part, certainly. Now, I always wonder about these guys. Okay, he looks the part. He looks like an athlete. Does he have the physicality to hang in there, against teams who are going to run downhill in the run game, all of those things. But I think the big thing I liked about Brian Burns, he's a very loose and fluid athlete. So not only can he beat you with pure speed around the corner, for a guy that's 6'5" and long that way, has tremendous bend around the edge. But the thing I liked a lot too, his ability to shake offensive tackles, change speeds on the rush, right? So he could get an offensive lineman squared up and give you a little bit of this and get the offensive tackle off balance a little bit, and then he can put his foot in the ground and accelerate to the quarterback. That was impressive to me. He's stronger than what I expected. I think that's what really blew me away a little bit.
So finesse and power is a combo.
It is a combo. It can change speeds through the pass rush, right? Like where he can kind of go, he can rope-a-dope you a little bit. Like, I'm not going to go that fast. And all of a sudden it's bam, and he goes, and he catches people off guard. But very athletic and can set the edge and holds his ground in the run game. Disruptive around the ball a lot. He was a pleasant surprise for me.
Was that something you saw on the field in November in the Notre Dame game, or is this coming through on film?
I think it's no. I saw it a little bit on the film. I mean, at Notre Dame on the field where I said, oh, this guy's a little tougher than I maybe gave him credit for in watching the last 2 games of Florida State. But as I really dove into this over the last week, I was impressed with ability to set the edge. When people want to know what I mean by setting the edge is, okay, you got an offensive tackle. Your responsibility is to protect the outside gap, not let the outside run. Man, when he locks his arms out, he can hold an offensive tackle there and funnel the run back inside. He can drop into coverage. They stand him up. I looked at him, and at first I thought, man, this is maybe Daniel Hunter, which he does certainly have that, the guy we talked about before. But I also thought maybe more Leonard Floyd, who was a top 10 pick for the Chicago Bears out of Georgia. Now, he's not as gifted as Leonard Floyd, but a similar type of athlete.
And lean as that?
He's got a little more muscle and power to him. I don't know if he's the freaky athlete that Leonard Floyd is, but he was a pleasant surprise to me.
Let's go scenario here with him, because as I'm listening to you talk about him, I'm assuming that you think he's worth a first-round pick, kind of a later
exactly
first round.
Right.
So let's say you're Oakland sitting there at 4, and your favorite pass rusher goes either 1, 2, or 3. Can you sit there in those 10 minutes and be like, you know what? We're going elsewhere. We had 2 picks in the 20s.
Yes.
Maybe this guy will be there in the 20s, and he might be better value.
I think is exactly what that would be my thought process, certainly. I mean, if you're in Oakland or a team like that, if you felt like you were in the top 10 and, you go, gosh, I got these teams calling me, offering me some great trade options here. Yeah, and we need a pass rusher. I would think Brian Burns would be one of the guys they go, man, if we get back in the mid-20s somewhere, late 20s, Brian Burns can be there. Hey, one thing I always look at that's impressive with some of these guys, they're 10-yard split, okay? Because, I mean, pass rusher, it's about your first 3 steps.
5-yard split.
Right.
Really,
really. Exactly right. And Brian Burns, I mean, when you're 6'5", 249, and you ran a 4.53, and his 10-yard split was 1.57, I mean, that's elite wide receiver type of 10-yard split right there.
Anybody else in this list as good?
There is. Yeah, we're gonna get into. Stop trying to come on. So, I mean, gosh,
don't say any names
I don't want to shoot all my bullets yet. Okay.
I was just wondering if it was the best. Of all of them.
Right.
Okay, so that was 5.
Right.
Brian Burns, Florida State. Do you want me to say 4, or are you on
I got it now.
Okay.
I got it.
Number 4.
I won't choke this one away. Montez Sweat is where I'm going to go, out of Mississippi State.
Should have asked Kirk about him.
They played him. I know. I almost went there, but I didn't want to keep too much of his time. But Montez Sweat, I mean, come on. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to see this guy. Now, the film will want you wanting a little bit more, okay?
In what way?
In what way? Where I wish I just go, man, there's moments where I just wish he would take over the game a little bit more, because you see flashes of it and you go, wow. So this is where I think a guy like him could end up being a little bit overdrafted because of things we've talked about earlier in the show already. The length. Of course, we're doing 6'6", 260, 4'4", 140. I mean, 4'4", 140? Are you kidding me?
Insane, isn't it?
It's insane. I mean, that beats
Does it show
Odell
up on
Beckham
film,
Jr.
To your point?
It does. It does. I don't know if 4'4", does. I probably would have guessed like 4'5" flat.
But he looks
4'9".
freaky fast for a guy at that position.
Freaky fast, 10-yard split, 1.55. Okay,
even better than Brian Burns.
Even better. And I think for the tall, long guy, the thing that jumped out to me, there's 2 things that jumped out to me. And there's a lot of room to grow, okay? He tries to win really one way, with beating with speed around the edge. Has very good bend for a long guy, which is you don't always see with these longer type of guys. It's hard for them to get into these angles and still hold up. So I like that aspect of his game. And he was more powerful than I expected. Now, I want to see more power or speed to power in the pass rush. And for anybody out there who's going, what the hell is speed to power? You'll hear that if you ever watch Mike Mayock on the Combine or anything like that.
Used to.
Yes, used to. But speed to power, I'm going to stand up for a second, Annie, once again, is, okay, here I am. I'm coming around the edge, and I'm trying to win with speed. You know what? I'm not going to beat this guy. He got a good jump off the line of scrimmage to tackle, and I'm not going to beat him with speed. At what point can I stick this foot in the ground and now just drive him back into the quarterback? That is speed to power. The ability to recognize, you know what, I'm not going to win with my speed here. I'm just going to have to try to collapse the pocket and ruin the play that way. I wish he would do it more. He does it in the run game, which tells me he's capable of doing it. These are things where NFL coaching and getting around other NFL alpha male defensive linemen and things like this.
You learn by example.
You learn by example.
Or be coaching. And that's what I was going to ask. You kind of answered the question. But when you talk about bend, to me, and I'm comparing it to the bendability, if that's a word, you can either do that off the edge or you can't. I mean, you can have the best defensive line coach in the league.
Exactly right.
I don't think you can teach
You can't teach that.
Can you teach the speed to power thing?
I do think you can teach the speed to power thing. I think there's a few little technique things there where I've talked to defensive line coaches over the years where, yes, there's a few things that they can put in their brain, drills that they can practice with them to go.
That's one of them.
You can add this to your game along with hand fighting. Run game, I was really impressed. I was really impressed with his ability to get off blocks, Paul. Like, I mean, he's standing up an offensive tackle and, he sees the ball coming outside. Man, he can throw this guy away. I mean, I wrote in my notes at one point, I mean, if he gets his hands on you and locks his arms out, you are That's what I wrote, okay?
Yeah.
I know that's a harsh word, but what I mean by that is...
Did you capitalize it? Is F capitalized?
No, I didn't, but I underlined it twice, okay?
That's even better.
So it's better. But yeah, when he gets like this, and his length of his arms, which are over 35 inches, and of course just the natural power he has, you're done. Because once he gets you here and he's got his hands right in your chest, shoulder pads, he kind of owns you that way.
How does he get out of the top 10 then?
He probably won't. I don't think he will. And I think as we get into these next few guys, I think all these guys are top 10
We're now in the top 10 category.
Yes, certainly.
Okay.
I think these four, for me, are on a different level than the three we've already talked about. Where the other guys, we talked about can be anywhere from, let's say, 20 to 50. I don't think these four right here that we're going to get into, no way they get out of the top 12 to 15. I'd be shocked.
Okay, so now we are into the top three. At number 3.
Yep, at number 3, Josh Allen from Kentucky.
A lot of people have him higher.
I know they do. I know, but I'm not a lot of people, okay? I'm a pain in the ass.
Just trying to press your buttons here.
No, please do. And I don't always like saying this stuff because this guy's a Jersey guy, too. You know, I'm a little partial to the Jersey love,
north or south?
He's north.
Okay.
He's up to like Montclair, New Jersey, which have been right where I grew up.
Yeah.
Exactly. So this guy is a rush end / outside linebacker. If you want to give you some examples, and I didn't say this about Montez Sweat, okay? So I got to go back for a second. Montez Sweat's Simeon Rice to me, a guy I played
against him.
You played against him, because he was at Illinois when you were playing college ball,
opposite
right?
Kevin Hardy coming on the other side.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah,
but that's who I would say Montez Sweat's comparison is Simeon Rice. Now I look at a guy like Josh Allen, just as right off the bat. My comparison would be a rich man's Anthony Barr. Okay, because he can play stand-up linebacker. He's a better pass rusher than Anthony Barr ever was at UCLA. Or let's say a poor man's Khalil Mack at a Buffalo. Wow. Okay, yeah, it's high praise. I mean, there's, like you said, there's a reason we're talking about him, and you said everybody. He is no question going to be, all these guys. And I hate this part is all these guys are awesome. These are ballers. So I know we're ranking them and we're trying to point out flaws, but these are special football players. They really are. I think the big thing with me with Josh Allen, production, it's undeniable. I mean, yes, he gets around the edge sometimes, and I go, damn, I don't even know how it wasn't that pretty. Yeah. But damn, he got the sack. I don't know how he did it. He is phenomenal at dropping back into pass coverage, doing those things. But bendability, as your word you just invented, I think it's actually a real word. I'm not even sure. Okay. He does not have the bend that I love. Okay, he wins with quick feet. And he's kind of a pitter-patter runner, which is different than the rest of these guys. And a lot of these guys are, can really take one big step and explode out of the three-point stance. This guy might take 2 steps where a lot of these other guys do 1, but they're very quick. He gets his feet back on the ground. Little low cut, doesn't have the legs that I love as far as what he's being asked to. Like, his legs are not Khalil Mack, who has an all-time set of legs and ass. But I guess this is the thing where I look at it and concerns me just a little more maybe than everybody else you're hearing about. The bendability and the ability to play through contact, I think, is what concerns me.
I feel like I want to raise my hand like I'm a kid in class.
Please do.
Always do. Take my question.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so all very good points.
Right.
But if you look at where he is in the SEC,
sure.
if he's having this kind of productivity,
yep.
I'm guessing, like you talked about Clemson having 3 or 4 guys on their front 7, they're going to be potential first-round picks.
No question.
Probably doesn't have a lot of other people there in the defense with him that they are game planning for.
No, I would agree with that,
if
certainly.
He's the clear guy,
yeah.
being game planned against,
right.
making plays against that competition.
Yeah.
Can't you live without the fact that his bendability isn't awesome?
Well, I want to know if it's always going to translate to the NFL. And I just don't know that many top-tier pass rushers that don't have the bendability, I guess is where I worry about it, let alone the speed to power that we talked about or the ability to play through contact. If he doesn't kind of win getting around the edge, he's not going to really win that way.
So if somebody gets into him, he doesn't
He
get
has
away.
an issue with there. And again, we're talking about a really good football player.
Mm-hmm.
We're being nitpicky with all these type of guys. But I think that's the thing. Just lacks a little physicality and power in his game to concern me and drop him down maybe a little farther than what everybody else has. And, hey, listen, I'll throw out a point to you. You know, the Jets are picking number 3, right?
Yep.
They need a pass rusher, and they are widely telling everybody that they're willing to trade down. Now, if Josh Allen was a slam dunk, they wouldn't be saying that right there.
Yeah.
So to me, that almost speaks a little, too, to go, okay, we're not sure right there about, him as the pass rusher or whatever it may be. So I guess that's the thing that concerns me at the end of the day about him.
One final question about him. And I know you have him rated at 3 and Montez Sweat at 4. But after listening to you talk about both of them, if you were a GM picking at 6, 7, 8 and could have either, it sounds to me like you'd rather have Montez Sweat, even though he's rated below him.
I think I would. I guess the difference is Montez Sweat's a hair of a projection, right? Okay. He has more than one elite trait. I mean, the length is an elite trait. Size is a skill in the NFL, okay? Everybody's got to remember that. Size is a skill. Of course, then the freaky athletic ability, yes, I think would lead me to believe this. He has a higher ceiling than Josh Allen, certainly. But I think from what I saw on film for the last year and a half or whatever it may be, Josh Allen has played at a higher level, but I don't know if he will 2 years from now. It's going to be very close.
Here's what all this means. Tonight at dinner, Chris's wife is going to be talking to him, and his mind is going to be on number 3 or number 4 at defensive end.
It's a close one.
She's going to be like, are you listening to me?
No, and I'm like, no. And she's like, I mean, come on, can we talk? And I'm like, sorry, I don't know what to say. But I just want to see what if I'm missing anything else there. Hey, he's got great get-off. I think it's good. I didn't think it was special get-off, okay? Now, he ran a 4.63. He had a 1.61 10-yard split. All very good, certainly. And we talked about his ability to drop back in coverage. That's what people are going to like. He's going to be looked at as a rush end or an outside linebacker. He's going to be that type of guy. We want you on the edge. We don't necessarily want you dealing with the power game. At times, you'll be able to cover the TJ Hockenson down the seam, and he'll be able to do that. Right.
Big asset.
He is. It's a big asset, right. So he can do multiple things for a defense that way, which, of course, is part of his value.
Your handwriting's too small.
Yeah, well, I write so many things down. I'm always like, okay, all right, I just don't want to miss anything because I know I'm going to go home tonight and go, damn, I should have said that. I missed it.
Bringing us to number 2, and to me, this is the most intriguing athlete in the top 7.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
Rashawn Gary, another Jersey guy, oddly enough. I watched him play. Watched him play in his high school state championship game.
Total freak, and it doesn't mean he can play, but he's the kind of guy. If you're on the field, and we were at the Notre Dame Michigan game,
right?
Like you just stand 10 yards from him, and you're like, wow,
what?
How did that happen?
Exactly.
So then the expectations are so high for him that it's almost like he can't live up to them.
No, a little bit, because that's all you hear about Rashawn Gary. Where's the production? Where's the production? Where's the production?
Yeah.
Okay, well.
But that doesn't always bother you.
It doesn't always bother me because it's not always about that. Again, we're talking about a guy who's 6'4".
Is that all he is?
He's 6'4", and he's 280 pounds.
Looks like he's about 6'6" to me.
I know, because he's high cut. Yeah. He's got really long legs. Ran a 4.58, okay, and had a 1.63 10-yard split. I mean, the drills at the combine, I would have gone, damn. I mean, you put him in with the linebackers, and he looked like he was better at coverage drills and some of that stuff than some of the linebackers actually were. But to the production point, this is the big thing. Again, it's not always about sacks and what you do.
Right.
There's a stat that I call, it's unofficial in the NFL, okay? But the play up stat, okay?
What is that?
Well, the guy who ruins the play,
oh, okay,
right?
Gotcha, yeah.
But somebody else makes the tackle. And in my pro player comparison, disruptive, right? Disruptive, I'm more about disruption, not about production. And I know, hey, production matters. I understand that, but it's not always the key thing to a football player. This guy is Michael Bennett to me. And just so everybody knows to where we go with Michael Bennett, and I think I made this point to you before. Michael Bennett in the years 2012, 13, 14, 15, 16, 5 years in a row, I would have argued he was one of the 2 or 3 best defensive players in all of football.
Unblockable
and
at times.
Certainly the best defensive player in the Seattle Seahawks. And if anybody else doesn't go out there and go, oh, Chris, you're so full of crap, what the hell are you talking about? Go back and watch 2014 America's game when Seattle's playing New England in the Super Bowl. All New England worried about was if they could block Michael Bennett.
And a lot of times they couldn't.
And a lot of the times they couldn't. And I bet you his sack rate, his sacks those years were probably 6.5, 7.5. But like we've talked about many times, his ability to ruin the play, like a Rashawn Gary, he can ruin the play. He might not get the tackle or the sack, but he is the reason the play was ruined, right. And now Devin Bush got the tackle, or Vinovich got the tackle on the other side. But it was all set up because of Gary's special talent. Now, where Gary's different, and where this will be a different conversation, is he's not like the rush end like the other guys are. This would be a guy that I would go as more of the crash end type, right?
So he's limited in what he can, in the variety of things he can do?
He's just not a pure pass rusher. He's more that. He might not have the absolute off-the-edge, pure pass rush skills that Josh Allen has, right? But I still think he has more versatility along the defensive line than Josh Allen. I think he could be the rush end and do that and have success, but he also can go over the other side and go, oh, okay, there's a tight end and tackle over me? Great, good luck. I'll split you two so quickly you won't even know what hit you, and I'll be in the backfield, and I'll just shoulder you off or throw you out of the way and get upfield and ruin the play.
Is he the kind of guy, if he ends up on a team with 2 great defensive ends, they could kick him inside and win there?
Exactly right. And that's what a really good crash end can do, and that's what Michael Bennett can do. Oh, okay, it's third down. We think about the old Seattle Seahawks. They had Cliff Averill. It's third down. Let's put Bruce Irvin at defense end, and now we're going to put Michael Bennett, who's a really good DN on a guard in a pass rush situation. Yeah, good luck, Mr. Guard, blocking that. And that's where Rashawn Gary is extremely impressive. He has got phenomenal athletic ability, like you talked about. I mean, his speed jumps out. You run away from him, he can run the running back down from the backside. But I was more impressed with his ability to just throw blockers off, pulling guards, run through them like they weren't there. To me, again, we're nitpicking. But if you just said, okay, you got 1 pick to start your defense, Rashawn Gary or Josh Allen, I would go, I'm taking Rashawn Gary. I just think he can do more for my defense and be more disruptive on a play-to-play basis than a Josh Allen. Now, Josh Allen might get drafted ahead of him, and I completely realize that. But some team, you got to think team needs too. Some teams might we kind of have that guy already. We need a real guy that can just come off the edge all game long and do that. And they might prefer Josh Allen. It is about scheme and what you need and all of that. But for me, as just a complete football player, Rashawn Gary, I think, is a notch above Josh Allen.
Whoever you have at number 1, it's not a real surprise.
Yeah, no,
it's
not. Better be
awfully good because a couple of these guys you described sound like they're worthy of top 5 picks.
Yes, I mean, I listen. I wouldn't be shocked if I wouldn't be shocked if we got to pick 7 and 8. And I mean,
3 could be gone.
All four. Yeah, the 4th is going by number 8. I really wouldn't because it's that special of a group.
Number 1.
Oh, baby Bosa.
Moving from Ann Arbor to Columbus.
Yeah, right. I mean, little Michigan, Ohio State. But Nick Bosa, yes, he is number 1. And I would like to say this. I think it's a little closer, the gap between Nick Bosa and Rashawn Gary, than I would have thought until I dove in. I thought, I thought, oh, Nick Bosa is going to be the guy when all's said and done here, and he's just going to kill it.
Seems to be.
And he is. He's amazing. But I thought the gap is a little tighter than I expected to after watching all the film.
Do you think inside any building in the NFL that Gary is actually ahead of him?
I know that there is some scouts that I know that have Rashawn Gary with a higher grade than Nick Bosa. But I think at the end of the day, Bosa's elite pass rushing skills are what's going to separate him from the pack here. And that's why I think, if the San Francisco 49ers stay at number 2, Nick Bosa is going to the San Francisco. If Kyler Murray goes 1, to Arizona, Nick Bosa, I would just be shocked if he went.
And you use him in what way? You talked about all these different ways
exactly.
these guys can be used.
Yeah, he can do it all. Rush in, crash in. He can move into 3 technique too. At the end of the day, you want him to be your rush in. You want him the guy that come off the edge and just pin your ears back and use the unbelievable bend he has to get around the edge. I mean, we talked about Khalil Mack, Von Miller. I mean, they can get their shoulders and body like a foot off the ground. Yeah. And Nick Bosa is the same way. I mean, he's just got a phenomenal lower body, but he does slide into defensive tackle in certain situations, and he can shoot a gap like a Rashawn Gary we talked about.
Can he drop?
He can drop, yes. It's not going to be, I think, what you're going to want him to do on a consistent basis.
Would he be a liability if you drop him?
No, he's not going to be a liability. He could do it. I don't think you'd want to do it, 20 times a game. Mm-hmm. But if you said, we're going to throw a curveball here, and, every, 8 to 10 times a game, he's going to drop back and have to do something in space, he'll be completely fine, just like his brother. Hey, the pro player comparison is his damn brother. There's no doubt about it. He's a better pure pass rusher than his brother was coming out. I don't know if he's as strong at the point of attack with just throwing tackles out of the way in the run game and things like that. I think Joey's a little bit of a natural bigger guy, but I think Nick is a little bit more slippery and explosive around the edge than Joey was. And I think that's where I look. And then we talk about the power, speed to power element. Has very good hands to knock it down when offensive tackles try to punch him to slow it down. All of those things I thought were top-notch. Again, his 40 wasn't as good as the rest of these guys. He ran a 4.79.
How much does that matter?
Not really. I don't really care. His 10-yard split was 1.60.
Okay.
So that means those first 2 or 3 steps, he's covering some serious ground. But I think that, at the end of the day, is what really sold me on him. He does have the versatility to kind of do 3 different things along the defensive line, and his pure pass rushing ability, I think, is the best of the class.
What's your biggest concern with him?
Probably injury. I don't know if there's anything there that I really look at.
It's kind of a reach. I mean, if you're talking about a potential injury,
I'm just nitpicking here. I mean, he missed his last year because he had to get groin surgery or something like that. But it's not something I look at a film and go, oh, this could be a real problem down the stretch somewhere. There's nothing that I look at there that I go, wow, this is kind of a concern for me. He's a slam dunk, pretty much can't miss prospect in my eyes.
If we can, let's throw the list up there, 1 through 7. Chris just went through. In that order right there. So Ferrell or Farrell, however you want to say it. 7.
Please
I'm one
save
of the few
me.
that says Ferrell, but I was told that by the Clemson SID department. To Ferguson from Louisiana Tech at 6. Brian Burns, Florida State at 5. Montez Sweat at 4. I think eventually Chris is going to move him to 3. Josh Allen right now from Kentucky, he has at 3. Rashawn Gary at 2, and Nick Bosa at 1.
Very close, though. You're right. The 3-4 spot to me is I just wasn't as blown away with Josh Allen as I thought I was going to be. And that's not a disrespect.
I don't want you to lose sleep over this.
I won't. I'm trying not to.
Okay.
But that is the shit I like. I do lose sleep over. Yeah. Like when the dog barks at like 3:30 in the morning and my mind starts going, these are the little things that start going through my brain to keep me up.
Wonder what keeps your dad up?
Oh, gosh. Probably having me as a son would be one thing that probably keeps him up.
Big Phil, are you there?
Well, I'm here. What are y'all talking about? Going through our minds? I couldn't quite hear.
I'm talking
just
about
giving Chris a hard time about his list. I foresee a couple changes coming in his top 7 defensive end / outside linebackers, and he's saying he might be up at 3 or 4 in the morning thinking about this.
I did a deep dive, of course, Dad, and you know this, into the
old deep dive. I like that.
The old deep dive into the edge pass rusher guys. And just so you know, because I haven't had this conversation with Dad yet, of course, I put Nick Bosa as number 1. I put Rashawn Gary as number 2. I put Josh Allen as 3 from Kentucky, slightly ahead of Montez Sweat, the kid from Mississippi State. That was kind of my top 4 there. And they got a kid from Florida State, Brian Burns, at number 5. But just a really interesting group, and it was close. I mean, I really think I don't know how, and I know, Dad, I want you to talk on these guys a little bit because I know you've watched a little film on all of them. I really look at Bosa, Gary, Montez Sweat, and Josh Allen as 4 top 10 picks in this coming NFL draft.
Wow.
Well, first off, I was waiting for your all's call, and if I'm ever on death row, I want y'all to be the one to take me to death row.
Yeah, we're late.
I'll die of natural causes before you get it done.
Damn, I didn't realize
we're
that.
Not
Sorry.
responsible for that here, though.
No, we're not. Well, you know what happened? We had Kirk Ferentz on from Iowa. We went a little long with him, Dad.
Oh, that's good. Okay,
Yep.
I understand.
So,
I'm just being me.
I know you are. That's what we want.
I sit here and I wait and I wait and I don't care. So I was just writing some things down, writing down my schedule, which I keep on a big, Paul, I'm one of these guys. I write my schedule down every day. I got to do this, I got to do that. And I'm looking at it going, okay, it's not going to get done today. I'm already behind schedule.
It's best to whittle it down. Then you don't disappoint yourself at the end of the day.
Well, yeah, no. Unfortunately, if they're all not scratched off, it really bothers me, and it does keep me up. But I'll just say this, a couple things. Start with Rashawn Gary.
Right.
Saw him in high school, and he is responsible for a kid that I know very well being a major college quarterback because the quarterback on their team got hurt. And they were playing Paramus Catholic where Rashawn Gary went.
Right.
And I saw him play, and I don't know if you did or not, Christopher.
I did.
But they looked like a college defense.
Yes.
They were truly scary. They had black uniforms. They looked like they had about 7 Rashawn Garys out there. And the coach goes, oh, my God, if I play my backup quarterback, he'll get killed. And he goes, I got to put somebody back there that can take the beating. So he puts his 6'4", what the heck? What's the guy? Drago. What's the guy's name in Rocky?
Yeah, Ivan Drago. You're right. Drago. You're right.
Drago.
Yeah.
He looks like Drago, so he put him back there. Never played quarterback, and he ran the ball, threw a few. He took a beating, but at least he could withstand it. And Rashawn Gary, just like in high school, what I see, I love him as a prospect of the fact that he just plays so hard.
Right.
And just great hands. I noticed that about him. And what I always love, I like pass rushers, the old, I got speed, but I can also run you over. Right. And he is definitely one of those guys. Yeah. Great explosiveness. And the other thing that jumps out, and I can't think of his name either. I was going to look it up before we talked. The D-line coach at Michigan.
Oh, I know. Gosh damn.
I can see him.
Yeah, I know.
He was at
Florida before.
Is it Coach Madison?
Greg Madison.
It is Greg Madison, exactly right.
Well,
good call, man.
Was it Iowa?
Yeah, good call.
Well, that is a great call, Paul. But look, he is a great defensive line coach. He was the coordinator for the Baltimore Ravens. He was down in Florida, of course, with Urban Meyer. And he went back to Michigan. And I said, why are you doing it? He goes, man, I just want to be with the kids. And, and you see it year in and year out. He's got guys coming out because he gets, of course, talented guys. But they coach them up. And, we have a friend that lives nearby here, Christopher, that played for him in Florida.
Right.
And he says, I learned so much more in college than I ever did in the pros because of Coach Madison. So, but the ferociousness that he plays with, the hustle, the speed, there's nothing, to me, not to like. Now, I heard somebody on TV say they might take him from, through the years, he can be an inside guy instead of an outside guy. I don't know if I see that.
No,
because I don't think his frame is big enough to be one of those inside guys.
Right,
but
like that.
I love him as a player.
I said one thing like Michael Bennett. He's Michael Bennett-ish. You want him as your defensive end, but on third down, you can put him over the offensive guard, and he's going to just absolutely whoop that guard's butt.
Yeah, that's right. That's a different thing than playing third down. Then you can take the type of guys like him and put them inside. But look, I read some people say, oh, he's not going to go that high or whatever. Oh, I don't know. I think he will because
would you take him before Bosa, Phil? Would you take him first?
Well, let me think about that. No. Okay.
Why?
Just everything, man. Nick Bosa, I think, is better than Joey Bosa. Boy, that's tough to say.
No, I said he was a better pure pass rusher than his brother. I said the same thing. Yep.
He is. I don't know what they fed those kids growing up, but they are just they're malicious on the field, and I don't know. They're like the Gronks, the Gronk brothers, Gronkowskis. They all just they were built and look and trained or whatever to be football players. The fact that he tosses around blockers, major college tackles, like they're little kids, the way he can move, and if you in college, it's going to be a lot of the same thing that his brother Joey sees in the pros. If you play him one-on-one, he's either going to overpower you or his hands again. I love it. He must have those big old thick hands. When he puts them on and grabs somebody, they're going.
Yeah, right.
And I think he'll have those same effects on a lot of pro tackles. Really physical. And
his ability to bend, right, Dad?
Speed,
I mean, his ability to bend around
power.
the edge, I thought, was really what jumped out to me too. I mean, he's like the top tier pass rushers, we all see in football. He can really get that shoulder coming around the edge really low because he's got a tremendous legs and ass.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's the other thing. He's got the body to be a long. I mean, look, he can stand in there with anybody. And you said it. I saw your little thing on TV when they were showing you legs. You go, oh, that's Bosa. Oh, that's so and so. That's pitiful. But Paul. But I really, really like him a lot. And of course, the health thing would worry me a little bit, but it doesn't seem to be concerning anybody right now. Mm-hmm. And I think he is, of course, going to go off there's no way he'll make it past number 3 in this draft.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
Right.
But it was fun watching them.
Yep.
I haven't watched them all because there's so many and there's so much. And wow, and you know what? I got to learn. After you see 40 or 50 plays, you really know who they are.
Right.
And, I keep watching. I go, oh, I'm like, it's like a trance. Okay. And you see the same things over and over. So, you got it. Now, Josh Allen, I'm not blown away like you are.
I'm not either, Dad. I'm not blown away either. I made him number 3, but I thought it was very close to maybe making him number 4. Yeah.
Well, I haven't watched them all, but I did watch Josh Allen, and I say, okay, I watch him. Do you just see a can't-miss guy that's going to get it done? Where are you going to play him first, my son? And Paul, where do you play Josh Allen?
Yeah, he's going to be an outside linebacker, or he has to be like a weak side, pass rush defensive end. He has to be something along those lines.
Where would you play him, Phil?
That's a good question. I don't know. Probably, some type of odd front outside. That's what I see him as. Yeah. I don't see him as a great put his hand on the ground and go.
Right.
And I listen. He has, he's another one, strong hands, and one of the first things I wrote down, is he going to overpower somebody? Maybe if he catches them off guard, but I don't look at him as one of these guys that, is he a great bender around the edge?
No,
I would say no.
Right.
He's versatile. I don't think he can, like I said, overpower. So those are things, and somebody compared him to Von Miller. And I go, wait, I don't care about their size and their weight. Von Miller's weight and body is a different body than Josh Allen.
Yes.
Von Miller's best move is what?
Speed.
He's going to run you over.
Oh, okay, sure, okay.
He's going to run you over. It's power because you worry so much about his speed.
Yeah.
So I do not see that when I watch Josh Allen. And I'm not being critical of the kid.
No, he's a baller. He's going to go top 10. We get you. Yeah.
He hustles. He plays hard. He's got good movement. All this stuff that they want to talk about in the draft, his hands and all that, which really is all true. We don't talk about it. We talk about their legs and all this thing. But having those hands to be able to grab and manipulate guys maybe is as important as anything when you talk about defensive line play.
Yeah,
and I played with a guy, and you know him, and Paul, you'll remember him, Jim Burt. He had hands, I swear, they were 4 inches thick.
Right.
And he could two-gap a truck.
He was an interior. We're talking about DNs, but that was an interior
nose tackle, right?
He was an interior guy, but I'm just the hands, it's such a big part of what they do and everything as far as on the defensive side. So, that's kind of I feel about those guys. I have not watched Montez Sweat yet. I'm interested to look at him.
Yep.
And all of them. But I'm slowly working my way through a lot of guys. And I'll just say it one more time. Man, there are a lot of good players.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's not a good time to be a quarterback. Because
hey, Phil, is it difficult for you to be impressed by any college defensive lineman who's coming out to the NFL when you played with Lawrence Taylor for 10 years?
Well, Lawrence is the standard bearer still to this day. And, of course, we heard Belichick during the season when somebody – who was he comparing to Lawrence Taylor?
I think it was Khalil Mack, and he was like, we're talking about Lawrence Taylor here. Yeah. We're talking about Lawrence Taylor here.
Because Lawrence is the first original guy and still maybe the best of all time of what I heard you guys saying, that he could go around the edge and get his right shoulder or his left shoulder, low to the ground and be almost sideways and run full speed and get a sack. I mean, it was – but he was a phenomenal, phenomenal athlete with phenomenal legs and just, you know, he loved competition. And which I've told you guys many times, he was a great guy to wager against because – Lawrence, I bet you can't make 100 foul shots. Oh, yeah, I can. I'll bet you. You know, hey, Lawrence, I bet you can't throw it in the upper deck at Giant Stadium football. Oh, I can do it. I'll do it. You know, yeah, okay. So, you know, don't ever do anything yourself. Just tell Lawrence he can't do something. And, you know, well, but that's what made him – that's why he was great. And I still say it. He's still the best I've ever seen coming around the edge. Here we are, all these years later, and I still have never seen anybody with the bend and the flexibility of a guy like him. And, of course, Lawrence didn't lift a weight. I mean, hell, I probably could bench and do all that more than he could, but his legs were, you know, they were built to play football. He had great legs and just great talent and really the feel to play the game. That's what it was, too.
Yes.
And the first one to be an outside edge rusher as a linebacker. He changed rules, so there you go.
All right, big guy. I know we got some other topics that you want to get off your chest. I mean, I love interviewing my father because we don't interview him. He just tells us, like, I got to get this off my chest. So
no, I just kind of say a few things.
No, I love it. So,
okay.
So you're the man. I mean, damn, you are Phil Simms, so it's all right. I mean, you're the big.
I don't know who he is, and I don't give a damn. But let's go on.
Yeah, you're more known as the big now, just so you know.
Is that it? Okay,
yeah,
thank you, son. Thank you. Yes, I know. I got kids. You know, like I said, I'd walk down the halls at CBS, Paul, and they go, "Hey, big," and I just go, "What?" I said, "You little, come here, I'm gonna smack you, boy." And I go, "Well, your son, that's what they call you." And I said, "Okay, so whatever."
All right, so I know you wanted to talk about the Arizona Cardinals a little bit and the situation there. Yeah,
I did. You know, I might backtrack just a little bit on what I was talking to you about because I said, "Well, let me look it up." They did pick up a couple guards, and Matt Garcia and J.R. Sweezy.
Yes.
So that gives them some veterans and a little stability there. I know they signed Brett Hundley at quarterback, which I thought, okay, that's a pretty good signing, and I'm sure the money was not over the top.
Right.
I thought they took a great chance in taking Kevin White and getting him as a free agent from West Virginia, played in Chicago, never got anything done. But the fact that most people had him rated as a high number 1 draft pick, the talent has to be there. Can he stay healthy and really become a finished product? We'll see.
Right.
But I would definitely take that chance.
Yes.
And then they got
and
the
don't
wide
forget,
receiver.
Dad, Kevin White was at West Virginia when Kingsbury was at Texas Tech, so he saw him in person. So you know
good point.
Yeah, right,
Yeah.
right.
And then I forgot the other guy. They signed a wide receiver. I forgot his name. I can't remember.
I'll pull it up. But go ahead. Keep making your point. Keep making your point. Go ahead.
Well, in other words, so they got some guys over on the the offensive side that kind of stabilize it a little bit. And my point to Paul, to you and Christopher, is this. If you're going to draft Kyler Murray with the first pick of the draft, then my goal is to do one thing, to make sure it works with Kyler Murray. And I would have go out there and get certain free agents to solidify things, and then I would even, add on to it with the draft. And it's not about winning and losing, really, if you take Kyler Murray, if you're the Arizona Cardinals. It's about him playing well.
Right.
To validate what you're doing, to give everybody hope, and then you build from there. So that's the way I'm looking at it with the Arizona Cardinals. I didn't realize, and I'm watching. There's so many free agents, but some of the things they've done are pretty cool to at least start to get a little foundation if they're going to draft him, to let Kyler Murray be somewhat kind of the person or the player they think he can be. Because Josh Rosen, if he was Houdini, he still wasn't going to play well.
Right.
Because that was just horrendous.
Right.
The offense was horrendous. It wasn't
pass
great,
protection
not
was
great
horrible.
Design.
Right.
And the pass protection was, I don't know. If he was my son, I'd go, look, son, just take one look, throw it away. Please, you're just taking too. He took so many ferocious hits. And I will say this about Josh Rosen. My knock on him coming out, didn't move around enough and all that. And I still, wish he was a half a step maybe quicker or faster. But he did move around more because he had no choice with the Cardinals than I saw him move around at UCLA, that's for sure.
Dad never said that to me, by the way, just so you know. He was always like, why don't you play at 238 this year and just stand in there and take it, son.
Get your ass
That's
kicked.
kind of what he would say to me. Put a little more armor on.
Would you rather, if you're inside that Cardinals building there, Phil, would you rather keep Rosen and take Bosa or have Kyler Murray?
Wow, that's a great question. Listen, I'm taking Kyler Murray.
Yeah.
You too?
I am too. Yep.
I never thought I'd say this when it first started this offseason. You know why I do it? It changes the whole dynamics of your franchise. And Cliff Kingsbury, okay, let's see it and let's build this thing and strictly build. Like I say, I want to see a draft where they do nothing but just keep picking guys to help their offense. And if your offense is good enough, you can hide a bad defense.
Right.
And you can really help it out. We see it all the time. And, the Ravens had a great defense, but they had an offense that played to it all the time, too, to kind of make their stats much more better or whatever you want to say than they really were.
Right.
So that's what I want to see, and I'm kind of not convinced, but I believe they will take Kyler Murray, and we'll see what happens from there.
Okay, so we got two other subjects I know. And let's just do this one right now, okay, Dad? Because, I mean, this is the big news of the week was Gronk retiring.
Yes.
You played with Mark Bavaro, okay?
Yes.
You know Bill Belichick. And when you were announcing the games for CBS, I don't know if there's anybody on the history of the planet that covered the New England Patriots and Rob Gronkowski and Brady and Belichick more than you. What's your overall take on Rob Gronkowski and what he is and what he's meant to football?
Well, listen, first, what he's meant to football, the personality and all that brought fun to it, and it was real, and you just go, every time you see him, you can't help but laugh. And you and I were having Easter when you were working up there. Right. We're in the hotel having Easter brunch.
Yep.
And I walk out in the lobby, and there's Rob Gronkowski. Now, I've met him 50 times and talked to him in meetings 20. And I said, hey, Rob, how you doing? He goes, hey, yeah, oh, yeah, how you doing? I said, I'm Phil Simms, remember from CBS? He goes, oh, yeah, okay. And I still don't think it hit him. He just walked on. But that was the Gronk. And I know Bill Belichick, listen, to always wanted and finally got him when he drafted him, a guy that could block just as well as be a pass catcher. And he probably got the best of both worlds, maybe the best blocking tight end that I've ever seen. And I would put him right up there. And Mark Bavaro might be second if he's not first.
Right.
Mark Bavaro was an incredible blocker. And I heard these stories from Belichick constantly. Simms, we practiced. It was Carl Banks against Mark Bavaro. It was this, he goes, and it was just a war every day. And, I just go, God, I forgot about that. Just think, Mark Bavaro, who he had to block all those times with the Giants, but he was a great blocker. Again, just great hands, a really good athlete. No question would have been a Hall of Famer if he didn't get hurt. And all the things that he did well, we see the Patriots, they did them. Josh McDaniels must have looked at our offense, which I know he didn't, but they run plays that, hell, we were running back in the mid-'80s.
Maybe he did.
Right.
And all the seams that it always used to kill me. You're playing the Patriots, they get to the 35 or the 30, they're going to send the big guy down one of the seams. And Brady must have thrown 30 touchdowns to Gronkowski on seam patterns. Let's see, what pass won the Super Bowl for the Patriots this past year against the Rams?
That's right.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. It was a seam to Gronkowski.
Right.
Oh, my gosh. So, and we threw that so much, and they kind of had the same rule that we did. And I'll just say this. We had a seam pass in preseason against the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I thought it was a little tight. And I wasn't quite, just letting these little tight throws go at that time. And I dumped it off. We're watching the tape, and Parcells goes, why did you throw it to, Bavaro? And I go, well, hell, it's, he's covered. He goes, Simms, remember, when he's covered, he's open. And then I just went, this is really sad. I went, okay, I understand that.
There aren't many guys like that, though.
Yeah, but you know what it was? we learned, just like the fade route, you throw it behind him, throw it low, throw it hard, throw it over the guy's head. And Bavaro was he had mitts the size of a catcher's mitt, and he could catch anything. I really don't remember him ever dropping those passes.
Right.
And think of the playoff games that we played in.
Yep.
He caught big seam passes in every single one of them.
Yes, he did.
And I think most of them were for touchdowns.
Right.
And they did it with Gronk, and what a combination they had there going with Gronkowski and Aaron Hernandez.
Mm-hmm.
They kind of changed football a little. And here to this day, I still see plays that those two ran. I see them in the AAF football. I see them in college. And I still see them all in the pros because of what the Patriots did with those two tight ends.
Yeah, awesome. I mean, Dad, the best tight end you ever saw in your career? I mean, was Gronkowski the greatest tight end in history in your mind?
He is in my mind, yes. Yeah. Absolutely. Listen, I think when the time comes and if it settles down or whatever, even Bill Belichick will say it because he was a phenomenal blocker. My last little thing is I remember his first couple years, he was getting so much publicity. Defensive players really hated him. And I was out in Denver, and, all of them were, Gronkowski, we'll show him. They were like, they couldn't stand all the publicity he was getting. I did the game the next week out in Denver again. And I can't remember the linebacker. I don't think it was Brandon Marshall. It would have been before his time probably.
Danny Trevathan, maybe?
It could have been.
Right.
Well, whatever. He says to me, I go, hey, how you doing? He goes, hey, man, that Gronkowski is so much faster than I thought. And he goes, hell, he's a giant.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing, Paul. Have you been around Rob Gronkowski?
We
just talked about it a little bit.
We started the show with the story. I mean, one of the things I said was I was on the field about a year and a half ago against Pittsburgh. It was a December game that New England came back and won because of the Brady to Gronkowski combination. And I was about 10, 15 yards away from it. And his size and speed against other men who are giant and can also run fast stands out in a way that unless you've seen it in person, it's hard to describe.
Right.
Yeah, it really is. And, I think everybody's all these theories. If he says he's going to retire, if he's not there, whatever, I don't think he'll come back because, we used to make fun. I say, okay, watch this when he comes in. And everybody go, okay, what's going to happen? I go, he'd come in and he'd shake hands. Everybody said, man, Gronk, you look like you lost a little weight. And he would be destroyed. What? Oh, he'd hold his arm up, flex it. What do you mean? He was, because he's so into being in great shape and taking care of himself and all that. And he will do that. He will stay in great shape. But we know there's a difference between being in great shape and being in football shape. And running and sprinting and all that stuff puts tremendous pressure on your lower back, and that's one of his problems.
No doubt.
And the fact that he was so big and all that really shortened his career because he was such a target and so much, so many things can kind of go wrong when you're that tall and being over the middle and getting hit and dragged down from behind and all that, that I would be surprised if he did come back. And he'll stay in great shape.
He'll have his chances. He will get those calls.
He will. He will. But New England's got his right. So if he's going to go back, and Bill Belichick's only going to bring him back if he did. He'd have to practice and practice and practice. We think he's ready, but we're going to see one more week of practice.
Right.
Yeah. So look, it was great following him, great watching him play. And, of course, Josh McDaniels did a great job of always using him and making sure the best players got the football, and one of those was Rob Gronkowski.
All right, you the man, big guy. I appreciate you
always.
Paul,
you guys have a good day. And you know what I'll get you to for Christmas?
What?
Watches.
It's 9 months away. How about something before that?
Yeah, I got to get you watches so you can, tell time and call me on time.
Yeah, well, I'll say we'll get around to it one of these days.
Yeah, right. All right, see you.
All right, Dad, see you.
See you, Phil. There he is.
There he is. Yes.
I look forward to that part of the week.
Yes.
Now, obviously, we do that on Wednesdays on the show here.
Right.
Do you ever, are you stuck in traffic? You call up Dad, just talk ball?
All the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's usually, he usually calls me whether he's in the car or I'm in the car. That's a lot of our conversations go. And, even today, we had no dialogue about these edge rushers we talked about.
Yeah.
I just told him, hey, this is what we're going to do on the show this week. Why don't you turn on a little film and just, give your 2 cents about what you're. And as you can see, I guess we are father and son. He was a little bit aligned in me as what our thinking is. And, this is. we're a crazy football family, and we talk about men's legs and butts and being able to dip low around the edge and hands. And, he had the great experience of not only being around Parcells and Belichick, but guys like he mentioned, Lawrence Taylor, Mark Bavaro, Carl Banks. So we always talk about the physical attributes or the things they had that make players special. And it's part of scouting, and it's kind of what we do. And it was interesting to hear him say some of those things.
This podcast has more hands, legs and butt talk than any.
No doubt.
Yeah.
We are winning that war there for sure.
4 episodes in, I'm learning that.
It's every week discussion pretty much, yes. But, again, Dad makes a lot of good points. And I think, he saw the same thing with Josh Allen. I would wish he would have got to see Montez Sweat to see where that goes there. But, again, it's just some of those things. The power he talked about, the bend, all of those things that kind of concern me. I think he sees the same things there. It's interesting. And
were you surprised at what a slam dunk Bosa is over Gary for him? Because I got the feeling that
I'm a little probably closer. I'm a little closer there, yes, probably than he is.
He didn't hesitate at all.
Yeah, I get it. And I think there's going to be people in the NFL who won't hesitate either, just because of Bosa's pure pass rush ability, and it's such a vital, essential thing in the NFL right now. You look at the really good teams in football. You look at the Rams. You look at the New England Patriots. Whether it was the Jacksonville Jaguars when they were in the AFC and NFC Championship, the Eagles when they won the Super Bowl. They can get home with their front four. You know this just as well as I do.
And not just for the sack, but for the disruption.
If you have to start, sending more people to get pressure on the quarterback, and you're getting late in the season against the good quarterbacks, against the Bradys and everybody else, they're going to know how to get the ball out of their hands before the blitz gets there. You're going to be compromising the back ends. The really good teams that win Super Bowls, the Broncos, the Seahawks, add them to it, they could get there with 4 when they had to and keep 7 back in coverage to confuse the quarterback and flood passing lanes. And I think that's why guys like Bosa are special.
And thinking of 4, that's why you think 4 could go in the top 8?
I do. Yeah. I really do, yeah. And, again, like I said, Montez Sweat's a special guy, and I think a lot of people are going to just look at him and go, this is a praying mantis of a human being here we got. I mean, it's just long arms, long legs. Holy cow, he can, get off the ball. Like I said, the production might not be perfect, but people are going to see some plays and, attributes that they're going to go, ooh, I've seen this in other special players before, and I think this guy's got it, and I think I can mold him into that. And that's what
just maybe they'll see bendability.
Bendability.
Could be there.
Yeah.
Hey, I understand you're going to be talking some draft tomorrow. As well.
We're going to talk a little draft tomorrow. Josh Norris is going to come on for our Thursday.
Have you hung out with him? He's very good.
He's awesome.
Yeah.
He had me on his podcast a few weeks ago, but no, I really respect Josh. And I know we're going to have the thing I love about Josh. I know we're not going to see eye to eye on all these guys, so we'll be able to have some good discussion.
He will have done his homework and have an opinion to go back and forth.
He's deeper down the wormhole of the draft than I am right now, so I'm going to actually be quizzing him a little bit on guys that I haven't got to deep dive into yet.
I was very lucky. I had a high standard talking draft for a decade at NFL Network.
Right.
I was used to Mike Mayock and Daniel Jeremiah. So when I came here and they said, hey, here's Josh, he's a draft guy, I'm like, okay.
Right.
And week after week, I mean, he brought it.
He does.
He does his work. He's got a good opinion on guys. So
no question.
That'll be a good conversation.
Yeah, definitely. Looking forward to that. And please tune in. And I think we're done, right? I mean,
is that it?
Yeah, I mean, I hope so. We've only been here for an hour and 40 minutes now.
Thanks to Kirk Ferentz. Thanks to Dad, Phil Simms.
Yep, thank you.
Both called in and talked some ball.
Yeah,
great.
Thanks to you, bro.
Good to see you.
You're the man, Burmeister.
I'm glad you're back.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. I was, that trip was awesome and annoying all in one. Okay.
I get the feeling you're happy to be back.
I am happy to be back. Thanks everybody, to the homies out there. Please subscribe to the podcast. YouTube.com/NBC Sports, or get at me at Simms Unbuttoned on Instagram, CSimmsQB on Twitter. Peace out, homies. See you next time.
Make those changes in your top 7.
Okay, I'll get there. Yo, what's up? Come on, man. Subscribe on YouTube to Chris Simms Unbuttoned Podcast. I need you. Please hit the subscribe button, please.